If I had £1 for every time somebody had said to me, you don't look autistic, I could afford a real tan.
Okay, that was actually kind of funny. So there's this video by the BBC Three, which is basically another Buzzfeed ripoff, called Things Not to Say to an Autistic Person. And as an autistic person myself, I figured I'd take a look at this video and give my thoughts on it. I remember actually seeing this video before and kind of agreeing with it, but as I kind of went along in life, my stance on a lot of things has changed, so I'm thinking maybe my thoughts might be a little bit different.
You don't look autistic.
Fucking hell. Yeah, I have got that one. I've got people say to me, oh, you look fine, Leanne.
Yeah, I've gotten that quite a bit as well. I think the thing is a lot of neurotypical people, or people that are not autistic, they have this preconceived idea of what autism looks like. They're either imagining somebody who's like sitting in a wheelchair, flapping their hands, like not talking and probably drooling, or they're imagining somebody who's like more of the savant type. So when somebody like us comes along who's a little bit higher functioning or not, that doesn't exhibit any of those traits, it's probably a little bit daunting to them. But I wouldn't say that this is something not to say to an autistic person. I think this is just something to discuss with them and say, okay, well, what do you think autistic people look like? And don't be confrontational about it, because chances are they're probably just not aware, and it's probably better to just like discuss it with them as opposed to like get angry and be like, how dare you? I can understand why that may put people off, but I still don't think that that's something to get angry about, because like a lot of it is just people, they just don't know.
There's definitely a media image of how autistic people are portrayed.
It's always men or children.
No, I agree, yeah.
Where's the girls?
I do agree. We do need to have more autistic women in film. And not just the spurgy Sheldon Cooper type women. Like, where are all of the autistic women that are like me? Where's my representation? I am a writer and an actor. I will tell my own story.
I mean, there is, I think, something called Savant syndrome where people do have these like amazing gifts they've been given. But I think a lot of these like special abilities come from being very, very, very interested in something.
Yeah. But the thing about a lot of people with the Savant syndrome is that, and autistic people specifically, is that we're very hyper-focused. Like, I don't know how it is for like some of these guys, but like when I'm in the zone, it takes a lot for me to get my focus off of that thing. And you usually have to kind of be like, hey, you in there? Hello? But yeah, it's not just being interested in something, because lots of people are interested in something. That doesn't automatically make them good at it. Like, I've met people that are interested in acting. Doesn't mean they're good at it.
I have let down autism. I am shit at maths, alright?
Okay, that's a bit of a stereotype right there. You're basically saying like,
they think of someone with autism and they think of your typical Sheldon Cooper type, and that it simply isn't the case.
and then you're saying, I'm terrible at math, that means I'm a bad autistic. That's not what being autistic means. Everyone's a little autistic sometimes.
Everyone is a little autistic.
That really pisses me off.
This is where I want one of those eye roll emojis.
I can understand why this might piss some people off, because it may seem as if like they're kind of diminishing a lot of the stuff that autistic people deal with. I think that the phrase everyone's a little autistic comes from the fact that there's a lot of people that have certain quirks and traits that coincide with a lot of autistic people, and there are certain comorbid symptoms with autism and other mental illnesses and mental disorders. So I think when people say that everyone's a little autistic, they're more so trying to relate to other autistic people, but unfortunately it just kind of comes out wrong. But I don't think like you should be like angry at these people. I think you should explain to them why it might feel a little diminishing. At least that's what I would try to do. I have never heard anybody say this seriously. I mean, I think I might have heard it like told in like movies or whatever, but if other people are actually saying that, then they're fucking stupid.
Autistic people don't feel empathy.
Oh, fuck off.
I actually believe that autistic people feel too much empathy.
It depends. But to say that autistic people like feel too much empathy is kind of a generalization. Like me, myself, I am definitely an extremely empathetic person. Like ask anybody that's really close to me. Like I've met autistic people that have a difficult time empathizing with people unless they are very, very close to them. That's not to say that they're not empathetic people. It's just there's a certain barrier there. But then again, you could say the same thing about neurotypical people. I've met plenty of unempathetic people that were neurotypical. The funny thing is that this girl literally just said, autistic people feel too much empathy, and then he said,
For me, it's very hard to sometimes put myself in another person's shoes.
Yeah.
that's what empathy is. I've never heard somebody outright say to me that I could be normal if I tried. If they did, I'd tell them to go fuck themselves.
Oh, I've gotten this a lot, man.
I want to know what kind of people you're associating with. You should probably rethink your surroundings, bruv.
I mean, when I was a kid, I got really badly bullied, and the teachers literally said to my parents, well, if she tried to fit in more,
Yeah,
she
I got
wouldn't
that
get
one
bullied. She brings it on herself because she's different.
Okay, if that's true, your teacher's a fucking cunt, and she should not be a teacher. Nobody should say that about any child getting picked on. Like, this is actually something that really pisses me off, is when you are being horribly treated by somebody and then someone's like, oh, well, what did you do? It doesn't fucking matter what I did. Yeah, it's one thing if they do something horrible, then yeah, they need to be called out on it, and yeah, they sometimes need a little bit of karma, but if somebody's just a little bit different to the point where it's not hurting anybody, then they don't deserve to be attacked for it. How would you describe autism? How is that something not to say to autistic people? If anything, if somebody asks me what's autism, like I've had people ask me, oh, what is autism? I'm happy to explain it because I see that as them trying to understand what it's like living in my world. It's not an insult. And chances are if someone asks me what it's like, how I would describe autism, it will help them better understand autistic people. And it may help them want to fully look into it more, which will lower the amount of stigma. How is that a bad thing?
It may help them want to be autistic.
Then everyone will be autistic. We'll be one spurgy family.
Like being in a different country where everyone talks a different language.
Yeah, and you've got all these kind of books that tell you what everybody else is saying, but you still can't put it together.
Yeah, I really liked Arthur's description of what it's like living with autism or Asperger's. It's like, imagine you're moving to another planet where everybody speaks the same language, but they speak in a very weird dialect, so it's very hard to understand them, and everyone's just loud, everything's more vivid and colorful, and you may say something that offends somebody and you don't realize that you're doing it. And even though you may assimilate into the culture and learn how to live amongst these people, you're still always going to feel a little bit different. I just bumped the mic. We'll keep that in. I don't give a shit. I don't know. I've thought that was probably the most accurate description of what it's like to live with Asperger's or autism or whatever. They don't call it Asperger's anymore. I think it's because they were sick of the Asperger jokes. That's a very weird question. I mean, it's not necessarily something that you would never say to an autistic person. It's definitely something to think about. It is very weird, though. I feel like there's a lot of things about being autistic that does make me see the world in a different way. But I don't think that that's, like, the best thing about being autistic or whatever. I don't know.
Basically, you want this on your general knowledge too.
But I will know, you know, oh yeah, I remember those shoes, they were brown, they had the blue shoelaces, so I do have that, and I really quite like that.
Isn't this things not to say to an autistic person? Because they're basically going off and just having a grand old time talking about the best thing about being autistic, and they also got offended at the special ability question prior. Like, they're trying to be BuzzFeed, but they're not BuzzFeeding right. You didn't BuzzFeed right, BBC 3. Learn to BuzzFeed better.
I had someone genuinely say to me, if you could get it cured, would you?
No.
I can kind of understand, like, not wanting a cure for autism, because personally for me, if I didn't have this condition, I probably wouldn't be the person that I am today. Obviously, there are days where I wish I didn't have it, when something happens that makes me realize just how different I am from other people. Specifically, like, in a bad way. Would I want a cure for it? No. If anything, I would much rather there be a certain treatment that helps lower functioning autistic people to function better, and I would like there to be better resources out there for higher functioning autistic people, because just because we look normal, it doesn't mean that we don't struggle. And I feel like that's one issue that definitely needs to be addressed more. And especially like if you're an autistic adult, because the thing about autistic people is that you don't suddenly reach 18 and it's like, suddenly I have better social cues and I have no sensory overload. I'm cured.
We are winners.
We're winners.
Yes, high five.
Okay. That was something. There are certain things that they said that I agree with, but there are also certain things that I do disagree with. Personally, I didn't find a lot of these things offensive, except for the autistic people could be normal if they tried, but then again, who actually fucking says that seriously, except for assholes? Yeah, basically, the main point is, if somebody asks questions like these, don't treat them as if they just said the most horrible thing ever, because a lot of the times they're not trying to be offensive, they're really just asking questions. I do think that the idea of like you shouldn't say these things to autistic people is definitely more problematic than actually saying those things, because if we stop seeing a lot of these things as, oh, this is offensive, and seeing as, okay, well maybe these people are just uneducated and this is something that we can discuss to lower the stigma against autistic people, things might be a little bit better. Well, that's my opinion anyways. That's just how it be. And cut.